COVID-19 changed millions of lives worldwide, and it also transformed the process of divorce, especially in child custody disputes. Joining us now is a prominent U.S. divorce attorney and the author of The New Rules of Divorce, Jacqueline Newman, who will reveal what parents should know about custody battles, especially in this post-pandemic world. Welcome to Bloom, Jacqueline.
Thanks so much for having me.
You know, this is a really interesting subject because I actually saw some friends go through this. The whole game changed when the pandemic hit.
No, it really did. I mean, we were in a situation previously where, you might have had more traditional marriages where one person was the primary caretaker and the other person may have gone, been more outside of the home. And now we're in a situation where both parents were home for a very long period of time and they have become involved in the day-to-day with their children. And I think that it's just changed so many things.
So can a parent legally forbid their ex from seeing their children if they refuse to get a COVID test or vaccine?
I mean, for the most part, no. I mean, in many situations, you already have a parenting agreement in place. However, if you have reasons to believe that a parent has COVID and they're refusing to get tested, I think that you'd be able to say to a court, like, this concerns me and I don't know why they won't get a test and I have good reason to believe it and I'm not putting my child in danger. But for the most part, the answer is no. Courts want to say that every parent is making good judgment calls and you cannot stop somebody from seeing their children.
Now, I heard in one instant, a friend of mine where the husband's like, well, listen, I am at high risk and the child needs to stay with me. Can that happen?
So, again, we're living in unprecedented times, and it was something that came across, came into our office many times where you had either they were high risk or you had someone, maybe they were remarried to someone that was high risk, which of course, the old spouse doesn't care as much about the new spouse. That said, yeah, I mean, it's something that, everybody was navigating in their own way. For the most part, again, parents are, courts are going to look at the best interest of the children, and they're not going to, for the most part, say that one parent not seeing the other one is in the children's best interest, even in a high-risk situation. They're just going to have to stress that everybody has to follow protocols and do everything they can to keep everyone safe.
That's good to hear because you could see how, because custody battles get so nasty and how maybe one parent might be using, the pandemic as an excuse, which would be terrible, when really at the end of the day, it's to keep everybody safe and co-parent together cohesively.
Absolutely. And yeah, unfortunately, it was ripe for manipulation. I mean, you definitely had people that said, don't tell me what to do. I can do what I want kind of thing. They saw it as an issue of control, especially when you had people that took it, to varying degrees of severity. Some people took it more seriously than others. And some people saw masks as a political statement. There were so many layers to everything that we were dealing with. And, and again, you're dealing usually in a custody situation. Many people aren't getting along and they're seeing things differently to begin with. So you add that whole thing together and it was quite the large snowball that we were dealing with.
Now, what if a parent is comfortable sending their child back to school, but the ex is not?
Right. So that became an issue as well. And I work in New York City where a lot of my clients go to private schools that can be $60,000, $70,000 a year. And so you had some parents who were saying, send my child to that school. I'm paying a lot of money. And you had other ones that said, no, 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 that's like a death sentence. I'm not doing it. And so it was really something we were, again, navigating. It was very, very difficult. But for the most part, again, if you had an agreement that deals with educational decisions, more often than not, that would probably dictate whether the child goes to school, even though there were fights about whether this was really a medical decision. But at the end of the day, the schools were, not allowing certain kids in. A lot of it was closed anyway. But I think coming in September, for the most part, schools are going to be open and kids are going to be going back. So a lot of this will be a thing of the past.
What about vaccinating young children? Because I have 4 daughters. I'm married, but I had 4 daughters. The older ones got vaccinated, and then when they started talking about the inflammation of the heart, a possible side effect, we had to have a heart-to-heart discussion. But if you're divorced, that might be a difficult one to do. I mean, how do you handle that?
Right. Again, hard stuff. But what we're doing now, again, if you had an agreement, that would probably fall into the medical decisions. If you don't have an agreement, what's going on more often than not, kids are going to need it to go to school, then they're probably going to have to get it. What we're really seeing now is with the younger children, obviously the vaccines are not ready for them, but as soon as they do, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be on the fence about whether you do it or not. So I think it's going to be a case by case situation. I think that whatever the pediatrician is recommending is going to give a lot of weight. But for the most part, if people are really on different pages, they're going to probably have to go to a court to help them decide.
And Jacqueline, we only have about 30 seconds left, but I mean, are these cases, are you seeing a lot of them go before a judge?
Not yet, but I think that they will be. I think right now, really where we are is that people are trying to navigate it correctly. They're trying to do it together, but people are fighting about it. And so far, there have not been any cases that I'm aware of that have rendered a decision, but there's no question that that's going to be coming down the pike in a few months.
All right, well, Jacqueline, I'm glad there are experts like yourself to help people navigate this. And thank you so much for joining us on Bloom today.
Thanks for having me.
And for more information, you can visit nycdivorcelawyer.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this.